It seems like Apple is about to release a brand new iPhone, but not the one that we're expecting in the fall, something different. But I can't help but feel that this might be a mistake.
Thank you.
Apple has had plenty of March events in the past, and it seems like a place where they can go to release products that don't really fit into the other categories. The fall is for the iPhone, like October is for the iPad and Macs, but this March time is for kind of everything else. Last year, we got Apple TV Plus and the Apple Card. These are things that aren't huge product deals, but they're things that Apple still needs to talk about. This year, we're supposed to be getting a March event, and with it, a brand new iPhone. But it's not exactly what you might be expecting. It's the iPhone 9. So basically, this will be Apple's low-cost iPhone, coming in at $400. But with that, you're getting basically the outside, the shell, the design of an iPhone 8, but with the internals of the current iPhone 11. So it'll have an A13 Bionic chip, it'll have 3 GB of RAM, and it will have the main camera from the 11 and the 11 Pro. But pretty much everything else is an old design. So take the iPhone 8 and just put those internals into it. So you're still getting a 4.7-inch screen, but with those thick bezels and Touch ID, no Face ID. It'll have that single camera in the back, come in like 64 or 128 GB options. But really, it's not an exciting phone release except for the price. And I'm sure for Apple, this is going to sell incredibly well. Having a low-cost brand new iPhone is something that, people just walk into the store, they say, I want an iPhone, but I don't want to spend a ton of money. This one's $400, they're just gonna get it. And especially for those who are just used to the Touch ID system. Moving over to Face ID, for a lot of people, is a daunting task, and if they have the option to just not do that and use what they already know, well, here you go. You have a cheap option for that. Real quick, before we continue, I want to thank this video sponsor, Universe. So if you've ever needed to create a website or you want somewhere to showcase all of your work, Universe is probably one of the easiest way to do it. You can create a website in like 5 minutes, but you can do it all from your phone. So it's an app that you can download for free and get started. The way it works is basically think of your website like a grid. So you have different blocks that you can insert where you want them that do different things. Images, videos, stores, social media, all these things can be organized very easily right from your phone. And that's kind of what makes everything so easy to use. It's drag and drop, you get what you need, put it where you want it, and that's about it. Now, like I said, it's free to get started and you can create your entire website for free, but you can upgrade to Pro to get more features like being able to accept payments. You can also upgrade your domain to be custom to whatever you'd like. And you can also get unlimited storage for all of your media. Anyone can get started with Universe and be up and running in minutes. And if this is something you'd like to try, you can check out the link down in the description and try Universe for yourself. I think where my kind of hesitation comes isn't because of this phone. I think releasing a low-cost option is great. Low-cost options are something that we need. But because of the price point, that $400 entry point, it leads a lot of people to say that this is the brand new iPhone SE. And that, in a lot of ways makes sense because the iPhone SE was kind of a rehash of the same old hardware, but with the latest internal specs at the time. So you have the body features and size of the iPhone 5S, but with the internals and the camera of the iPhone 6S. And if you look at this upcoming rumored iPhone 9, that's basically what Apple is doing again. But really, I think the question for me is, was the iPhone SE popular because it was a cheap iPhone, or was it popular because it was a tiny iPhone? When the iPhone SE came out, the only other options you had for a new iPhone was the 4.7-inch iPhone 6S and the 5.5-inch iPhone 6S Plus. And those were huge phones in comparison to the traditionally small iPhones. So I think for a lot of people, this kind of gave them a sigh of relief, like, I don't have to have that huge phone with me all the time. I can use this, it still has great specs, it's got that great camera, and kind of the cherry on top of it is I didn't have to pay a fortune to have it. And of course, you're always gonna have those people that just want the cheapest iPhone. The SE was that option. But I think the love of the SE and the reason that people talk about it so much is because of that size. So with this upcoming iPhone 9, it seems like Apple is just saying, I don't care about the size. Like, we just want to make a cheap iPhone. And from a business perspective, I'm sure that makes all the sense of the world. They're going to sell a lot more iPhones, and even though they're cheaper, selling more of them, I mean, they're just going to make more money. But it just makes me sad. When we got first rumors of this, SE2 iPhone 9 coming out a few months ago, I actually switched back to the SE for a few days just to kind of see what it was like. Like, did I actually like this small of a phone, or was it just that's kind of all we had at the time? But no, I absolutely loved it. This form factor is so nice. It made me really just not think about my phone as much as I do now. It was a thing that I used when I needed to, but I just wasn't on it constantly. And the size had a lot to do with that. I was, to me, more efficient because, it's an easy one-handed device. I just did what I needed to do and put it away. I wasn't constantly just staring at the screen because it was a little smaller. I was just doing the things that I needed to do on it. I wasn't just constantly on it. And in the few days that I was using it as my main phone, it was just like a little bit of relief. I wasn't thinking about my phone as much as I think a lot of us do. When we first got rumors a long time ago that they were building a new SE, there was a lot of mock-ups, a lot of renders and hopes that it was going to be basically this, but with a edge-to-edge screen and Face ID. Basically, a small version of the iPhone X. Yes, it would sacrifice in like battery life and cameras. It wouldn't have all of the features, but it would just be cool if Apple was the one to decide, we're going to just make a small phone. With the iPhone 4, the 4S, the 5, and the 5S, they were holding out. Samsung had been making huge screens at that point, and Apple was just kind of sticking to their guns and saying, we're not gonna do that. And then the iPhone 6 came along and it was very successful. But for those of us that loved small phones, it seems like Apple would be the right company to create a really good one. Now again, I'm sure Apple is going to sell a ton of the iPhone 9, and I'm actually glad they're making it because, again, a cheap option is something that we desperately need. But I hope that this isn't the end for small phones. We have companies like Palm making a tiny phone that's kind of an accessory to your bigger phone. I have my Apple Watch, which I use a lot as my tiny phone when I go surf or when I go exercise or when I go somewhere I just don't want to take my phone. Having this still works as my phone. I think we live in a society that recognizes having our phone on us all the time and be staring at it all day isn't necessarily the healthiest thing. And I honestly, truly believe that having a smaller phone would help that. So I'm sure Apple is making the right decision to sell the most iPhones, but I hope they don't forget why this one was just so loved.